members of the committee. I do appreciate the opportunity to testify on behalf of House Bill 2536 this afternoon. This bill only seeks two things. Any Pennsylvania resident that has been denied a concealed carry permit or who has had one revoked in Pennsylvania cannot acquire an out-of-state permit and be allowed to carry a concealed firearm in Pennsylvania. And any Pennsylvania resident who would be ineligible to receive a concealed carry permit in Pennsylvania cannot acquire an out-of-state permit and be allowed to carry a concealed firearm in Pennsylvania. This simply requires Pennsylvania residents to be subject to Pennsylvania regulations. I think this is a clear and straightforward issue that should not be clouded or lessened by negotiation or compromise. I've heard the discussions today that there perhaps is weaknesses in the Pennsylvania system. I think discussion should follow, as this committee has recommended. However, they should follow after this loophole has been closed. The current regulations have the loophole that needs to be closed immediately for the safety of all Pennsylvanians, including our police officers. I'm of the thought that we should get out in front of this before we have a disaster, before we have a police officer or a citizen shot by someone who has acquired a permit from another state when he would not be eligible in Pennsylvania. I think it's also important to discuss the local revocation process. This is probably the area that I've been involved in most. When my police officers on the street in Reading have brought to my attention contact with an individual that has used a gun or brandished a gun or have been in possession of a gun and had a permit to carry, but they've been involved in such circumstances that the character, reputation, actions have led the officer to the strong belief that they are a hazard in continuing to carry that firearm. I enjoy a great relationship with the sheriffs. In fact, I have in the 4 Pennsylvania counties where I work. And to lessen the ability to recommend the revocation of someone who has a permit and has caused problems by having that firearm, I can't imagine why we would want to do that by not closing this loophole and giving another state the judgment and the decision to take or not take away that permit. That should be a local decision by Pennsylvania, by your local officials who know the people, are on the streets, and should make that decision. As been discussed, it can be appealed, but it's the best thing to do. I think the strongest recommendation I can give is on behalf of the many police officers and police chiefs that are in the state of Pennsylvania, especially the police chiefs who were all at one time cops on the street, who agree with this. Besides being the chief of police in the city of Reading, I'm also the chairman of the Pennsylvania Law Enforcement Gun Violence Policy Group. We sent this committee a letter just over a month ago advocating the closing of this loophole, the passage of House Bill 2536. As you probably noticed, this letter was signed by numerous police chiefs from cities, townships, and boroughs. It was signed by the Commissioner of Pennsylvania State Police, signed by the Commissioner of the City of Philadelphia, Police Chief in Pittsburgh, chiefs from Erie, Scranton, Allentown, Lancaster, York, Chester, Reading, Upper Darby, all throughout this Commonwealth. In fact, it is the strongest response, the strongest unified response I've seen by a police chief in my 33-year career. This is how important it is for police chiefs to close this type of loophole and make sure we retain local control over these kind of decisions. In closing, I just would like to say I've been a police chief for 33 years. I've worked in 4 counties. in the Commonwealth. In those counties, I've never been approached by anyone who has complained about the issuance of a permit or the denial of a permit. And of course, that includes Berks County in the city of Reading, which is an urban city with crime issues similar to Philadelphia and New York City, as the chairman knows firsthand. And I just think this is something that the chiefs and the commissioners of state police would urge your support on in the passage of this House bill. Thank you.
Chief, thank you very much for coming here and testifying today. I want to also thank you for reciting the members of law enforcement that support closing this loophole. And I would just add to that that the superintendent from the township we're in right now, Police Chief Michael Chitwood, is also a signer of that letter and someone that supports closing this loophole. If you could, for me, you were present earlier when I asked the question and laid out the scenario of the witness intimidation case, the case where everyone in law enforcement and everyone in the community knows that a certain individual committed a violent act, either a murder or an attempted murder or aggravated assault. And because of witness intimidation, that case never goes to a conviction because the witnesses don't show up or are unavailable or in some cases are dead. That person then has on his record a dismissal. In your county, if that person were to then apply for a permit to carry a concealed weapon, is it safe to say he or she would be denied?
Yes.
And if that person then went to Florida not having a conviction and did, as we've heard described here, and applied for a permit to carry and was issued it, he could then use that permit to carry a firearm in Berks County or in any other county in the state of Pennsylvania. Is that right?
As it stands right now, they could.
Okay. And is that the kind of scenario, fact pattern that you're worried about as a guy that sends people out on the street every day in a place like Reading, where I know gun violence been a problem for years?
Yes, sir, it is. And it's not only the intimidation of witnesses, but we have a lot of people that are shot and do shootings that have criminal records. And in fact, I would say that most of the shootings that occur in Reading, and years ago we used to have over 100, do not prosecute, will not come forward because they are criminals themselves. They have criminal backgrounds. So we have people that are shooters, are victims of shootings. Some have criminal backgrounds, some have not. But we have the exchange of gunfire, which puts the whole community at risk. And often, even though law enforcement knows who fired the shots, we don't have enough for a successful prosecution. A lot of times we will make an arrest, we start to prosecute, but by the time it comes up to court, the witnesses is gone, the victim refuses to go forward, and we have a result of a dismissal.
Even in those cases, even though because of those circumstances, drug dealer, shooting drug dealer, or other facts, even though you're unable to get a conviction in court, you and your officers know who the players are. You know who the people involved in it are.
We do.
And they're not individuals you want being issued permits from a state like Florida.
That is correct, sir.
Thank you again for your testimony.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate you coming down with your testimony, sir.
Thank you.
We'll next hear from Mike Charles, Philadelphia.